time to get back.
Yeah, you do.
Hi.
Hi. Afternoon, everyone, and a happy new year to Mythbusters. You're with Mythbusters today, and the purpose of us getting together on a fortnightly basis is to discuss the contradictions and the misleading information in the property investing landscape. It is definitely a jungle out there.
Yeah, it is. So for the next 10 minutes, we'll be discussing the myth that if you buy in a falling market, you'll lose money. So, John, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, thanks, Deborah. So, moving into a new year, we've shed the skin of last year's property market, and just reading up on the holiday media, newspapers and articles are being put out there. It seems that there's all this kind of doom and gloom going on at the moment. But the reality of it is that yes, there is a correction right now in the Sydney market, as there is along the East Coast,
Melbourne,
and particularly Melbourne and some of the other states around Australia. But only very, very small dips. But the picture that the media is painting at the moment seems to be kind of all doom and gloom, and of course the sentiment that occurs out of that is that people then decide to sit on the fence and not make a decision. Coupled with, of course, 2 elections this year on a state and federal level, and some of the policies that are being discussed at the moment drives that fear even further.
yeah,
Where property investors, either put it aside, will buy themselves time, and won't make decisions. I guess the question regards to losing money in a falling market is, how do you actually time the bottom of the market, and
exactly.
when is the bottom of the market?
That's right, because you won't ever know until around about maybe 4 months if you're lucky, but probably 6 months after the bottom has happened, because the data doesn't come through until, data is usually about 2 months old, and then it doesn't really filter out. We're not sure whether it's going up or down, so you won't actually know when the bottom is until about 6 months afterwards.
Yeah, exactly, and I guess with the market turning its head from a FOMO market, which is the fear of missing out, where people have been paying over and above reserve prices to secure a property, to now being more reserved and cautious, and now the fear is actually in fact paying too much.
Yeah, that's right.
And how do you know that you're paying too much? Then becomes a discussion. Any thoughts on that, Ken, around the markets?
Yeah, around the markets. Yeah, look, I mean, having been out on the field in open homes and things like that out in Auburn and neighbouring suburbs, it's been interesting to watch. Knowing when the bottom of the market is very tricky to do. But with that, I mean, from a finance perspective, anyway, there are certainly opportunities there because to negotiate and actually give yourself some time to get the finance. In a rising market previously, if you didn't have your pre-approval ready, waive the cooling off period in some instances and just get in with it, you'd lose the property. But in this case, there's certainly opportunities there to negotiate the cooling off periods. Instead of 5 working days, you can make it 10 in New South Wales anyhow, or alternatively put in a subject to finance clause. So really just leveraging that the ability to negotiate with the vendor, the terms more so, and not necessarily the price, of course, but the terms. So yeah, you can apart from those 2 items, which are cooling off period and the subject to finance clause, there's also maybe just factoring in, because we're talking a little bit about this, just factoring in what happens if the valuation does come back lower than expected, because the valuers go in there with a set of rules or criteria from the lender to say, if this property was to be put on the market and sold within 60 days, 90 days, whatever the case may be with the criteria, sometimes they might make it a little bit lower than what you've actually purchased it, and that can certainly cause issues if you don't have enough funds to complete and you actually need that valuation so that your loan to value ratio is right. So having a bigger deposit in that particular case can help mitigate instances of a lower valuation, and then the loan amount decreasing, and then you having to find, funds. Also, contingency plans are always good. If you have parents ready to step in with a gift, security guarantors are available for you should you need it if the valuation doesn't stack up. There's other things that you can do, and kind of see if there are plan B, C's and D's out there for you to get.
So do you think the valuers that are going to go out valuing the properties this year, as opposed to the past few years where the market has moved in an upward direction, are they going to be taking the valuations more conservatively than ever before, given the current sentiment?
That one's an interesting question to answer. I guess they could. It just depends on how they feel. But at the same time, I guess it depends on how well the purchaser has negotiated, because if it's out on the market and the sale price has been relatively stable and they're purchasing, so there's a listing price versus the purchase price, and generally speaking, the valuers would be looking at the sold price as opposed to the market. It certainly is a possibility that they do, but if you're able to negotiate well, that kind of offsets the chance of the valuation coming in lower than your purchase price and causing all those types of dramas, which we want to avoid. So I guess to be cautious and ready. 100%
for this new phase of the market. The recommendation would be to make sure you do have some sort of a buffer in place, because there could be that element of surprise where the valuations don't go on par with the purchase price.
Exactly right.
Either that or negotiate really well. And so I've been busting to sort of jump in here because I know you haven't asked, but from my perspective, a falling market is just an absolute fabulous opportunity. So without wanting to be very ghoulish about some of those people who are not achieving the prices that they were hoping for, if you're a cashed up buyer, it's just fantastic. So
it's gold.
It is gold. And after years of very scary prices, particularly in Sydney, but also in other areas of the country, it's great to be able to have just that little bit of extra time to gather your thoughts and be more strategic with your purchase, and know that you're buying and getting really, really great value. And sure, we do have to be prepared for valuations to come in lower, but it's almost like a doubling effect in that our buyers know that the prices are relaxing, and so we do have much more leverage to negotiate a really good price. And as long as you're using good fundamental practices, as we always should be doing, and making your price pictures based on evidence, then you should be able to avoid any nasty sting from any of the valuations. But I think I can speak from experience. I've bought in all kinds of markets, and where we've made the absolute most money is when we've bought in a falling market.
It's going back to those fundamentals of the economic clock, if you like, and it's not always don't follow the herd and follow the economic clock. You'll be safer. I mean, at the end of the day, we're debunking the myth of will you lose money in a falling market.
Some will,
some won't. But I guess the bottom line with it is that how do you know and how do you time the bottom of the market when it's almost impossible to do that?
So I need to answer that. So how do you time it? You don't time the market, obviously. You buy when it's right for you, and then use good fundamentals to make good purchases and know what you plan to do with that property. So, for example, in 2010, we had been through probably about 8 years of a very flat market in Sydney when my husband and I made some very good strategic purchases. They were townhouse zoned blocks, but it was a house that actually, was pretty much cash flow neutral, but we knew to buy and wait for either us to be able to pay down the loan a little bit so that we could do the development, or wait for the market to turn. And so as long as you're thinking about your purchases that way, and it shouldn't be thinking about, you shouldn't be trying to ideally not. Well, no, I was thinking about like the flipping.
Yeah.
But even flipping in this kind of flipping, depends on the property.
One thing that I would add as well, in a falling market, or where it's an even market, or even a buyer's market out there, if you have your pre-approval, that definitely does help with negotiations, because if the vendor does receive two offers, the exact same price with the same terms, one's pre-approved and one's not, there is a good chance they might go, let's just go with the one who's pre-approved, or even if it's slightly less, then let's just go with the pre-approved person, because we've got no idea if we wait around $5,000, the person doesn't get the finance, it falls through, and then because it's in a falling market, the odds of the price of property being relisted for a lower price is higher. So get your pre-approvals in. That certainly helps as well in a falling market.
Yeah.
Yeah. So given the fact that this is now, we're going into what I think is going to be a buyer's market. I mean, that kind of started late last year. Deborah's thrilled with that because she's out purchasing properties for clients. So I get that.
My biggest concern is valuation.
Yeah. And my biggest concern as someone who leases and manages rental properties, of course, keeping the yields high, and there's a bit of pressure on that as well right now. So we've got an interesting market of property prices correcting and also rents correcting. So again, the fundamentals are number one, to research and go to the data rather than listen to the media, and number two, does the actual deal stack up numbers wise? And we've got historical data, we've got as much information as we possibly have in history about forming an opinion, an informed opinion, and of course utilising your great services and bringing it all together.
Well, and good advice from experienced professionals. Okay.
All right. So thanks for watching. We'd love your feedback. Please join the Property Mythbusters Facebook group and send us questions or myths you would like us to bust. So you can contact us directly through our individual social media channels. But until next time, have a good one.
Bye.
Over and out.
Over and out. Bye. How do I turn this off?